That popcorn was good, but my mouth is dry. May I have some water?
You are so ungrateful. Why don't you appreciate me?
Audio check.
Check.
We are live. Wait, what is the name of this podcast? This is a movie Veritas.
Was it? Yeah, movie Veritas.
I like it.
I think that's good.
I like that.
Did we toy around with other names? I don't think we had any other ideas for names. We just threw it out there. I think you can tell by the names of the podcasts how much thought we put into them.
Hey,
We have our other one looking
I'm not going to put us down.
looking at cinema and movie Veritas.
I'm sorry. These are great titles. They're searchable. They're iconic, and they're funny. They're catchy.
They're iconic?
Iconic.
Iconic, okay.
How many looking at cinemas do you know? I only know of one, and it's us.
I know of one, and I don't think that qualifies as iconic.
Look, a lot of people look at movies, but not a lot of people are looking at cinema like us.
That's true.
So today, on Movie Veritas, this is the show for our classy listeners that want to go deep down the rabbit hole. They want to analyze a movie.
Yeah.
They want to, They want to understand the cinematography veritas of the mise en scene of the movies.
We recognize it is pronounced film noir.
We watch moving pictures. I don't know what you're watching. So today on Movie Veritas, we're going to be talking about a classic movie from 2016 that it's not really classic. It's kind of, what's the word when it's...
You lost it.
Only a few people, when only a few people like it, but they really like it a lot. It's like a cult classic.
It's a cult classic.
Going back, when did Cloverfield come out? Did we get a number on that?
I want to say 2008. That's a guess, though.
This is a spiritual successor to the monster movie, Cloverfield, but this one is about a different kind of monster. It's called 10 Cloverfield Lane. And that'll probably cut us to the trailer right there.
Oh, okay.
Children behave. That's what they say when we're together. And watch how you play.
And then you'll come back to us talking like this, like meta, about the trailer that you just watched. And then, Adam, do you want to tell us about the movie?
Yeah. So a little more information about what we're doing is this is a little more in-depth. We're going to kind of go through the entire story of the movie and break down what we thought of the story aspects of it, the creative elements, and just kind of everything. It's an in-depth thing. There's going to be tons of spoilers. This is with the expectation that you've seen the movie.
Yeah.
So this is not a...
So stop what you're doing. Go watch 10 Cloverfield Lane. And if you're really feeling salty, go watch Cloverfield too, because I like the original Cloverfield.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you don't need to have seen Cloverfield to enjoy this movie, but it does help.
It's like an anthology. Like, it's not a sequel, like, with the narrative and storyline, but, like, the feel of it. It feels like they're, like, part of a pair that go together.
Yeah, I think at a certain point in this movie, you'll be thinking, like, what the hell is going on if you haven't seen Cloverfield?
Yeah, that's true.
It doesn't necessarily take from the movie. You don't, like... If you haven't seen Cloverfield, you don't have to have seen it to enjoy this, but there are some questions that will come up if you haven't seen Cloverfield.
It plays with your expectations. If you had seen Cloverfield, it's like the director and the writers are aware of that, and they're using your expectations to, like, mess with you.
Interesting. All right, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me introduce the movie. 10 Cloverfield Lane, rated PG-13, 1 hour and 43 minutes. It came out on March 11th, 2016. It's currently not streaming anywhere for free, so you do have to pay to watch it, unless you're like Zach here.
Arr! Sail the pirate seas! Hey, I saw this movie in theaters. So,
okay, so
I gave them my money.
Yeah, one time is enough.
Yeah.
I actually paid to watch it this time. I saw it for the first time before we filmed this, and I paid for it.
Yeah, good. It deserved it.
Yeah. It was written by Josh Campbell, Matthew Stukin, and Damien Chazelle, who actually wrote Whiplash. which I think tracks.
Oh, yeah.
As
I
far
can
as,
see that.
As far as tension goes. And,
tension and, not knowing where the story's going.
Yeah, an unpredictable
100%. That's
character.
another good movie,
Yeah. It was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, which Zach's a little more familiar with because he's a little more into sci-fi than I am. So I'll let you take it.
He's a little more nerdy. Well, Dan Trachtenberg first got on my radar because I like the video game Portal. I like video games in general. But there's a video game called Portal, and if you look on YouTube now, look up Dan Trachtenberg and Portal, and you'll find a little fan-made movie that he made in the Portal universe. Amazingly well done, like low budget little short that feels like the game. Like you could tell he's a nerd and he cares about like the production and the feel of everything. So then when I heard he was doing this movie, I was like legit excited because it was like the first feature film he had put together. But he's also gone on to do more TV. Like he's done the TV show The Boys, and he's done an episode of Black Mirror that was really good, actually. I should have the title on that. But he did one that's about a video game that takes over your mind, and the person doesn't know what's real or what's not. And it's very much like kind of a piece to this movie, very tension-filled, like really well-done episode. But yeah, he's a great director. I want to see more like movies from him. But I think this is the only movie he's done, right?
That I know of, yeah.
Pretty sure this is the only movie he's done. So
I think he's done some other movies that very like high sci-fi, like independent kind of. Maybe I don't know.
I don't
actually
think so.
Yeah, actually, I wouldn't know. I just looked at like his IMDb page, and he has some more directing stuff, but I don't know if that was like TV. Shorts or TV or something like that. Yeah. So I really don't know much about the director.
Either way, I want to see more from him.
Yeah. So that's kind of new for me. I typically know a little bit about the director for movies that I watch or that I choose to watch.
He's just like a fellow nerd. And back in the day, I used to listen to a movie podcast a lot. That he was friends with the guy on the podcast. So Dan would come on and talk about other movies and talk about what he was up to. So I felt like I kind of knew him, a little bit, like behind the scenes. Like I was rooting for him. And
when was that?
This was back when this one came out. Like
when this came out?
2015, 2016.
Okay.
Time period.
Cool.
So yeah.
So he was showing up on podcasts like just like as a relatively unknown.
Back in the day. Yeah. He's just a fellow nerd, man. Yeah, he's into stuff like that. So
cool. You want to give like kind of a quick summary of the movie?
Yeah, what this movie is, it is kind of a bottle episode of a movie. It takes place in a bomb shelter. It's very similar to like Misery, where you have this character of John Goodman who you're not sure if he abducts or saves our protagonist. So John Goodman plays a guy named Howard, and the lead, Michelle, played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, finds her. She's on her way home. She finds herself in the middle of an accident and wakes up in captivity, basically. But very quickly she learns that there's something else is going on, and you're not quite sure what throughout the entire movie. But they slowly drip feed you that there's been some horrible thing that's gone on in the outside world. And it's not clear if it's real what's going on the outside world, but John Goodman is trying to use this to keep her here regardless. And so the movie kind of changes genres a little bit as it goes, but it starts as kind of like a thriller. You're not sure if this guy's going to kill her or what is going on, but it's a very procedural movie where it's about like her adventure of discovery and trying to survive in this bizarre survival situation that she's found herself in a bunker, maybe at the end of the world. You're not sure. So that's my summary.
Yeah, she's either at the end of the world and her life has been saved, or she's held captive.
Yeah, or both.
Or both. Or both.
We don't know. Which we'll discover as we go
through the. I mean, we're not.
Also, this connects to our other podcast we just did, where we talked about Cruella and we talked about In the Heights, where there were fashion designers. Another fashion designer in this movie, and it becomes important to the plot later on.
Wait, who is a fashion designer?
The main character, Michelle, is a fashion designer, and she actually uses her design skills to design herself a suit later in the movie.
I did not realize that.
It literally starts with the movie starts with a panning shot that focuses in on her pads of her like doodles of her
shit.
designs of clothing that she was designing. And I had to stop the movie and I was like, you are kidding me, there's another fashion designer. So we don't normally pick movies with fashion designers, but this is 3.
We are high fashion.
We are high fashion.
On a movie Veritas, high fashion.
I don't know why. But yeah, so she's a designer. And I want to say, first off, too, like I saw this in the theater, which I doubt it'll ever be in theater again. But if it is, go see it, because the sound design in this movie is intense. And it starts off by like smacking you when she gets in that car wreck. This is like top 5 like best car wrecks in movies ever, because the sound of it hits you, and then it cuts the sound out for like the credits. And then the credits pull out, and there's like sound, crash, sound. Like they did a really good job of like shocking you with like, what is happening like in this movie. So really good design, like overall.
Yeah. I don't know that I'll ever get the opportunity to watch it in theaters, but I'm also not as in tune to sound as I'd like to be. I think I'm impacted by it when I watch a movie, but I'm not.
It's hard when you're at home, unless you have like a pumping.
Well, even
bass,
in a movie, like we've gone to movies together before, and you're like, "Did you notice how terrible the sound was in that movie?" I'm like, "No, I could hear it." It
plays a big part because and I love music. I know you love music too, but I write and record music, and I just love like soundscapes and like Pink Floyd like stuff where you hear all the different instruments, So I've noticed like soundscapes and volume, and I noticed like, that was loud as hell. Like they tweaked the volume on that. Like I pick up on that stuff for sure.
Yeah, I wish I did, but I think I would have to be more kind of musically minded.
It's just different. Like, you notice different things than I do, But very similar to A Quiet Place, actually. Like the vibes of this movie, where it really just launches you into the world, launches you into the characters without much explanation. And you just kind of like catch can, try and figure out, what is going on in this scenario.
There's a lot of not being aware of, like, as an audience, like trying to connect the dots as the protagonist is, and trying to figure out who she is at the same time.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of backstory on her, so you don't really know where to go, because you don't quite understand her reactions when the movie's starting.
Yeah.
Like, so you start off, you see her running away, like she's in this like looks like New York apartment, and she's packing her stuff and running away, and we do get the information she's running away from a relationship where there's been a fight. We don't know what the fight was like, if it was just a typical relationship fight, or if it was violent or anything like that. But whatever it is, she's leaving. We get that from the phone call from her boyfriend, who's saying, just come back. We just had a fight. So that kind of gives us an idea, because like, okay, there's been some sort of rift in the relationship, but we don't know exactly if it actually warrants this response. And then that's when she gets in the car accident, and then she wakes up in captivity. So she's,
her legs hurt, and she's like chained to the wall, basically by her leg, I think. By the hurt leg. Which is
like kind of throws you right into the dichotomy of the situation. Like, she should be dead. We see kind of like the impact of the car accident. It was pretty a violent car accident.
Yeah.
But then, it cuts away, and it cuts back to where her life has been saved, and she's in captivity.
Yeah.
So, and this is already, like, for whatever we know about this character, she does not like to feel trapped.
Like, that's true, because she's escaping.
Yeah, we've learned
she
that.
escapes and ends up in captivity.
We've learned that already, so we already know she's in her nightmare. Like, this is not where she wants to be.
True.
Like, it doesn't matter that this person is trying to help her.
Yeah.
She does not want to be held down.
And that was something I liked right off the bat, is this is a protagonist that's like actively trying to do stuff right from the beginning. She's not just like helpless, and she's smart.
Yeah.
Like, she like gets to her cell phone, which is across the room, and hides it, and she's doing stuff right away to like try and to manage her own escape, basically.
Yeah. 'Which,
which I definitely like.
Yeah, there was definitely the characterization right from the beginning, like this person's a survivor for some reason. Like, and there is a little bit of backstory later in the story as to why she is that way. But you get that immediately. I'm like, okay, this person is a fighter. When it comes to the adrenaline fight or flight, she's a fighter.
Yep. She doesn't like cringe and cry in the corner. She's fighting the whole movie. So I really like that.
Yeah, and the acting was incredible. The casting is awesome. John Goodman, who
Chef's kiss.
Yes, I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan.
Oh,
so the Coen Brothers are really the ones who
I see a lot
discovered,
of influence from the Coen Brothers on this movie for sure.
And I think I would credit them with discovering the potential of John Goodman as an actor.
This is probably one of my favorite roles he's ever been in, as far as like against cast and like just what you wouldn't expect, from him. He like chews every scene he's in. You just like hang on his every word, and like his character it plays with you're not sure how much what he's saying is true, and how much of how crazy he is. Like you're weighing that the whole movie, and he plays that line so perfectly of just seeming like genuine and nice at times, and then seeming psychotic and crazy, but it always seems like the same person. He doesn't like flip. He's just, you're never sure what he's going to give you.
I was driving north of here.
You were in an accident. You were turned over on the side of the road. I was driving by and I saved your life, Michelle. I couldn't just leave you there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
And he does it really well.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's kind of the whole movie, is like a slow reveal as she's figuring out what's going on. Because when she wakes up, he comes in and just gives her the briefest bit of like, there's been a chemical attack or something. I think he says he's not even sure at this point. But that, best case scenario, they got to stay in this bunker for a year or 2 years for the fallout or whatever it is to dissipate.
Right.
And that's pretty much what he gives her. He gets mad at her for, for not wanting to be in captivity and
for
being
not appreciating
ungrateful.
him, which I think comes back a lot. Like he really wants to be appreciated.
Grateful.
Yeah, he needs to be appreciated, which I thought was a cool aspect of the character who's holding someone captive, needing to be appreciated. There's like this weird like struggle. There's obviously going to be this weird struggle there because. And it's hard though, because he like I get the impression he really believes what he's saying, and if what he's saying is true, then she should be grateful, in his eyes. And then
he did save her.
She doesn't know what's going on, so.
You know what, Michelle? I'm going to tell you what I told him. You need to eat, you need to sleep, and you need to start showing me a little bit of appreciation. My name is Howard, by the way.
It reminds me a lot of like, it's just like abusive relationships in general, like from parent to child, which actually becomes a huge part of the movie too. Is you learn that John Goodman's character has had some horrible troubled past with his daughter and potentially other people, but there's that like parent-child dichotomy that's set up like very early on, and you learn more about that as it goes on.
That gets deeper and more troubling as the movie goes on too.
Yeah, which is, the movie does a good job of like freaking you out, calming you down, and then freaking you out again. Like it keeps raising the stakes.
But we were talking about the actors, and I do want to mention Mary Elizabeth Winstead, because I do love her as an actor.
She's perfect in this.
Yeah.
There's only like one other actor in the whole movie too. While we're here, but
I don't know much about him.
John Gallagher Jr. plays Emmett, another Emmett.
He kind of plays a foil to both characters.
Yeah. He helps like explain the scenario a little more and helps you figure out who, like you said, who each character is, how they react to him.
Yeah. He's he didn't really carry a lot of the load for acting in this movie, as much as the other two did. But like, I really love the only other movie I can think of hers is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Oh yeah.
She was
good in that, but that role did not require much from her.
Right.
Like this movie requires a lot.
Yeah, so it was cool to see like like a real like actual in-depth character for her, because that character was kind of intentionally a shallow character in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, because you see her through Scott Pilgrim's eyes, which is like this fantasy girl that he is like obsessed with.
That's right.
So she's not really, like a relatable person in
Manic
Scott Pilgrim.
Pixie Dream Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So seeing her in this, which I didn't see until way later. I mean, this actually came out relatively close to the same time.
It did, yeah.
I actually think it came out before Scott
It
Pilgrim.
might have. I'm not sure.
So I'm a little late to the game to realizing like the depth of her acting ability, but she was awesome.
Yeah, I would like to see her in more stuff like this for sure.
Yeah, the last thing I saw her in was Birds of Prey, which it wasn't a good movie.
Yeah,
it was.
I avoided that one. Yeah.
she was. I'm sure she was great, but there wasn't a lot to work with.
What's she gonna do? Yeah. But no, this movie does a great job of using its characters and playing with your expectations. You're never sure again like where it's going, and it has some built-in, like we said, because it's connected, at least in name, to Cloverfield. You're expecting there to be some sort of science fiction element, which doesn't really happen for most of the movie.
Yeah,
and you're not sure because Goodman's character, Howard, he mentions that there might be aliens, or he's like a conspiracy theorist who's prepared his whole life basically for this eventuality that he would have to cut himself off from society and survive. So he's just spilling out all kinds of conspiracy theories. Him and like the other character, Emmett, talk about different theories and whatnot. So you really have no idea what to trust for most of the movie. Like, there's a, I'm not sure how where we are in the plot at this point, but there's a point early on where she tries to escape, and which again, in any other movie, like it would have taken like twice as long for a character to try and escape, but like immediately she's like plotting and like manipulating and like ends up with the keys at one point at their first dinner.
I'm glad. Like,
do you want to talk about that?
I do want to talk about that scene because that's where
it's a really good scene.
It is a really good scene as far as like the acting and the tension and everything like that. I had some issues with the timing of it. Not for the character. The character is trying to find every possible way to escape. So I believe that it was how convenient everything was.
Yeah.
Which I get for the sake of narrative and to keep the story moving forward, but it just felt too convenient. So the scene is they're at the dinner table. They're
having their nice family dinner.
They're having their very awkward family dinner where John Goodman really wants them to act like a family. Yeah. And she realizes she starts using that against him, which is really cool.
Well, because the Emmett character which you learn was not part of the plan. Like John Goodman from the get-go wanted this place to himself, and you learn that maybe he wanted this place to himself with a woman, because you learn that there's some sort of, maybe he has a history of abducting people, which we'll get into later. But you learn that Emmett's character just kind of showed up at the last minute. He actually helped him build this bunker, but to him it was just a joke. He didn't think about the end of the world, But when he apparently saw the flash of whatever happened, some sort of attack that happened on the city, he immediately thought of the bunker. And so he came to the bunker and arrived apparently right as John Goodman was locking up the doors. So he just barely made it in. And kind of, you can tell John Goodman is not really a fan.
He's not thrilled about
that
it.
He's having to share the space with this guy, who's like kind of another rooster in the hen house kind of a deal. So he's like kind of chatting about how long they're going to have to be down here and whatnot. And like you learn, she's paying attention and learns that John Goodman's character gets like really agitated with the type of like dialogue and like the closeness. Like she's starts like being closer to him and talking to him when she realizes that he wants them just to shut up and eat their food and not
He wants
chat.
him to shut up and eat his food.
Yeah.
It's very clear he doesn't want, it's Emmett is his name?
Emmett.
He doesn't want him there. Like he was not part of the plan.
Yeah.
He doesn't want him there. He wants him to pretend like he's just not there. But he also, like, the tension is really increased because he wants this sort of connection with Michelle
Yeah.
that he's not able to get with him there.
Yes.
And Michelle quickly realizes that.
Maybe. Bet you if we started a game right now, we might even get halfway finished.
Stop talking. You don't need to make jokes about how long we're going to be down here.
And starts to kind of like play into being affectionate towards Emmett, just essentially to piss him off.
Yep.
And it's she does that, I guess. What was it? It gets her to attack. It gets him to attack her.
Because she wants to get the keys off his boat loop.
Right.
And yeah, I almost thought like she had some. I couldn't tell what her plan was at that point.
Yeah.
Really. Other than just to agitate him.
Mm-hmm.
But then he gets in her face, which gives her a chance to like take his keys.
Right.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. I'm gonna need the pepper also.
What exactly do you think you're doing?
I'm asking for pepper.
Like hell you were. What was that?
I don't know what you're talking about,
You
Howard.
trying to insult me?
That was a little convenient too. Like, was that her plan? Did she know? She
It
figured
seemed
him
like
out?
she was just tweaking with stuff. Because we
Yeah.
forgot to mention early on, she immediately like lights a fire and like puts it in the vent just to kind of fuck with the situation. I don't think she had a plan. She was just like, so she was always like tweaking with the boundaries.
Just seeing what would happen,
I know Dan Trachtenberg is into video games, so it made me think of like, in a video game world, you would just mess with the world and see what happens and like push your boundaries and see what's interactive. I
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
that's what she was doing, was just interacting and seeing with what she could mess with.
What happens if I open this door? What,
Yeah,
like,
so it did seem kind of convenient, but also just like she was just tweaking with everything until something paid off,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
okay. I mean, it didn't bother me because I recognize like she's just like a survival instinct person. She's doing
Desperate.
anything to kind of move the situation her way or
To
into
have some
something
kind
that-
of power.
Yeah. And so I don't know that she necessarily knew he was going to like get up and attack or something like that.
Yeah.
But she does use it as an opportunity to get the keys. And this is where I have the problem.
Uh-oh.
Is as soon as she gets the keys, she hears the car above them.
Yeah.
And so that's like the cue of like really making you question if what Howard is saying is true, is because there's
True.
a car up there.
Yeah.
And so if somebody else is alive up there, then the fallout can't be as bad as he's making it sound.
Exactly.
But that all happens right there together. So she gets the keys. She's sitting there for maybe 3 seconds before boom, they hear a car above them. It's like the timing, like
Yeah.
like I
It
just
was a little lucky.
yeah.
But I also see it as just like her plan was to hang on to the keys, I imagine, until like nightfall.
Right.
And she just jumped at the opportunity when it happened to
That
hear
and
the
that
noise,
was kind of
you
cool
know?
too. So it wasn't like a big deal to me, but it was just
Yeah.
like that seems convenient.
It escalated
But
really quickly.
It also like you're like, oh shit, she's got to do something now.
Yeah.
Like you weren't
And she
expecting her to
does.
have to do something immediately, and she jumps straight into it. She's like, okay, this is my opportunity. I didn't expect it so soon.
And she has a hurt leg, and she's like trying to get away as quickly as possible, and like
Yeah.
throwing stuff behind her so she can get up this stairway that leads to the exit.
Yeah.
Which she had seen earlier. John Goodman, because she wanted to leave earlier, and he's like, "No, you got to see." I forget the names, like Lucy and Bob. I don't know. He named like these pigs. So she goes up and looks out the window, and she sees like rotting pigs, which again doesn't prove anything.
Right.
They could just be dead animals. But he's like, "No, look, there's gases out there. That's what'll happen to you if you go outside."
Yeah.
So she doesn't really believe him until this point where she gets the keys, and now she's going to just make a run for it. So she gets up the stairs just ahead of him, you know, barely gets, which this was even more convenient that she found the right keys to.
Oh
that
yeah,
was
there's like a whole roll of keys. Like there's no
like
way.
3 or 4 locks that she has to unlock, and she just barely gets them through, which it looks like John Goodman's going to get her, but through the magic of editing, she like shuts the door on him right before he gets there.
Yeah.
And she's in the like little in-between area to where she's about to be free. And before she can open the last door, this woman shows up and like slams into the glass. and her face is all like mutated and like burned or something. You're not sure what, like chemical burns.
Yeah.
And she's just like begging to be let in.
Right.
So that's where it kind of, the movie shifts there, where you're like, oh crap, maybe there's something going on.
Yeah.
It's not just John Goodman being
Yeah,
crazy.
especially if you hadn't seen Cloverfield.
Yeah.
At this point, like throughout, up to this point in the movie, you think that he's full of shit.
Yeah, you
like,
just think 100% he's lying. He's trapped her there.
Yeah.
The world is fine outside. But all of a sudden, it's like the stakes shift. And
Yeah.
like, oh, something bad's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that kind of takes you on quite a journey of,
Well, he
questioning.
Yeah, and he kind of accepts her into the fold at that point a little bit, because you can see her will to escape is gone now, because there's nothing to escape to.
Right.
So she starts to see Howard a little differently now too, and it's like, well, maybe, you know, he's obviously not all there, but he is right. There's
Yeah.
something out there, and maybe he was just trying to help me in his own weird way. So it kind of, the movie shifts a little bit to being about in captivity to now they're in this together. The three of them are just kind of surviving now.
Right.
And she accepts the scenario. Okay, there's something outside. I don't know what it is yet, but I guess I got to stay here. So it does changes the tone of the movie to being about escape and survival. And now she's just like, okay, we're gonna live here now and see what's going on. There's a lot of like montages where they're like doing puzzle pieces and like playing games and like hanging out. And then all of a sudden the ventilation system goes down.
Is that when that's...
Yeah.
I thought there was something else that...
Well, because what happens is he can't get to the hatch is like locked for some reason, or something fell on it and he can't get to it. So the air handler goes down, which is supplying them oxygen. So they're going to die if they don't fix it. So she has to crawl through the vent, which, unlike most movies, is a very skinny vent that most people can't fit into.
Yeah.
But she's the smallest one, and she can fit into it. And she crawls through and like restarts the whole system. But then when she's in this like room that you can't normally get to, it's like another escape hatch is in this room, and she finds someone had scratched help on the window to like on the escape hatch, basically with their fingernails. So it's like a bloody help sign, and she finds a ring or earring that has blood on it, which she knows is what she was told is Howard's daughter's ring, because he showed her that he had a daughter who died, or supposedly died in this horrible event, who lived in another country. And so he's exiled from her and doesn't talk to her anymore, but he shows her a picture, and she finds the ring of his supposed daughter with blood on it that was in the picture. So she knows that he's lying about the daughter's situation. And then she confronts Emmett about it and tells Emmett, and Emmett's like, that's not his daughter. That's a girl that I knew who like lived in this town.
Yeah.
His daughter's someone else completely.
Yeah, he knew the girl from high school, and
She went missing.
she went missing, but nobody like really questioned it. They thought she just went off somewhere.
Ran
So it
away.
wasn't like a big like
Yeah.
investigation type thing. She just they just assumed she was someone who ran off, and that was the end of it. But he recognized her and knew that wasn't actually his daughter.
So that's the first time Emmett is really on her side and like sees Howard as like a threat.
Yeah.
And realizes like, okay, maybe he murdered this girl, and maybe you are right that he did abduct you, basically.
So now there's this whole idea that, yeah, he may be right, but there's also like something weird going on with him, and they want to get out of the situation.
Exactly.
So they recognize, there's something out there. We can't live out there, but we definitely can't live in here with this guy. Because you see, don't they show that she had lived down there with him before? The girl?
Oh,
There was a picture of them.
Yeah, that was just showing that.
Oh, was that the
was his
bunker, or was
that was
that-
his real daughter. It's like just she like realized that they were definitely two different people, because she was wearing the shirt of his actual daughter that was in a picture with Howard.
I thought it was the same girl.
It was a different girl, I thought. Yeah, I think there were two, because there was the one picture with Howard, and the girl was his real daughter, but that one fell out incidentally when they were like putting the other picture away. And then that picture had the Paris shirt on, because that's what he told her, this whole story about his daughter that's obsessed with Paris, but while showing her a picture of this other girl.
Yeah.
But then they find the real picture of the daughter with Howard in the photograph. So they know that it's a different girl That was kind of unnecessary. They just like throw that in there so you knew
So
they were
I
two
always thought it
different
was
people.
the same. So here's what I thought from that. I thought it was the same girl,
Yeah.
and I thought it showed that he had already taken someone else captive.
Well, I mean, that was definite anyway because we saw the scratches where she.
And
And
I
that was
thought,
years prior to this situation.
Yeah, but it looked like it was in the bunker.
Yeah. Oh, it was in the bunker.
So it looked like he had already taken someone else captive.
Yeah.
Went through this whole story of, the
Well, who
world.
knows what he told her then? But
Right.
he just abducted her.
I just assumed he used the same story.
I think he just got lucky that there was something happening this time that he could use. That was just like he's like, well, if I'm gonna abduct people, it might as well be during the apocalypse.
It's convenient.
Oh, all right. I was already abducting people anyway, but now I'm helping people while I'm abducting them.
that's what I
It
got,
was like
like-
two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
It was an odd.
But I don't know. I don't. Maybe I need to go back and watch and figure out what was that the same girl or was it?
Pretty
a
sure it was
girl?
different girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if it was a different girl, it answers some of my questions.
So we don't know if he actually killed his daughter, but he definitely killed this other girl who was scratching help with her bloody fingernails like to get away.
And so it does kind of speak to his character though, because I think if he's the thing about like conspiracy theory and like this doomsday prep is like you're bound to eventually think that it's happening. And so he
I
it
think
makes
it's
sense.
propaganda against preppers because I think you should be a prepper, to be honest. Like, you never know, and you got to take care of your family, and you can't trust the government. But we're not all crazy like John Goodman. I would never abduct him.
I know you have your theories, but I'm thinking a character like John Goodman, in that level of like assurance that there is something coming and you need to be prepared for it. If it doesn't come, there's going to be you're going to read some cues wrong and think that it's happening. So I get that every time he's abducted someone, I think he may have done it multiple times and believed it.
Maybe. I didn't get that, but I see what you're saying. I mean, that makes sense. I just saw them as two separate character traits. He was a prepper, and he's also a psychopath that abducts people. I just see those as two completely separate things that happen to coincide in his character, but yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I get that. You can definitely see that, but I think the question is always, is he a psychopath or is he just an overzealous prepper?
Well, I think the movie tells you pretty definitively by the end that he's 100% a psychopath. They form a plan, basically, Emmett and Michelle, to, because she's a fashion designer, and she designs, she actually gets the idea from the bath, seeing the, what the hell is that called? The
Shower curtain,
which is made of plastic, and so she sees this as like something she could fashion into a suit to protect her from whatever's going on outside. And so she comes up with this plan to actually they come up with this plan together to convince Howard to dispose, because he's very like OCD and always telling her to shower whenever she's been like close to the exit because she might have contamination on her. So like Emmett puts the idea in Howard's mind that, hey, she was outside, she was close to the exit when she was fixing the air handler, and then she showered, but there's probably crap all over the shower. Hey, just think about that, and kind of walks off. And Howard's like OCD starts going, and so he takes down the shower and tries to throw it away. They like rescue it and like start fashioning this suit that one of them at least can use to escape potentially. And they start formulating a basic plan to get out.
Yeah. So they recognize no matter what is going on, this guy's dangerous. We need to get out.
They need to get away, even if there is something going on outside.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're secretly working together, trying to get out, and eventually Howard starts to get wise to the...
Yeah, there's a really, really good scene. Let's see, I had some quotes from him. I don't know if it's in this scene, but there's a scene where they're playing 20 Questions. What is that game where you...
I was going to talk about that.
What is that game called? When you have to say a word that's not the word to get people to guess
What was the
word?
I don't know what the game was.
But he starts giving like really scary clues.
He starts giving really scary answers. So
because he's trying to give them the clue.
Emmett is trying to get Howard to say woman.
Oh,
And
right
he's
at that
saying-
part. Yes.
Michelle is...
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And he's like, a girl.
Girl.
A child. Like, he 100%...
He can't see women as women.
women. He sees her as a child.
I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
Second word. Ooh, Michelle is a
Girl, a girl, a child, it's a girl.
Because he refuses to call her. In fact, he's not refusing. He can't
Just
think of the
doesn't-
word.
It doesn't occur to him as like her being.
And he's
a-
like, "Come on, it's what she is. She's that girl,
Yeah.
little kid.
Yeah.
He can't say woman.
Yeah.
And it gets mad at the end of the guessing, and it's like, you should have made it more obvious.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know what else I could have done.
Right.
But then after that, he starts giving them clues, and he wants them to say Santa Claus, but he starts saying it by saying, "I'm watching you."
I know what you're doing. I see what you're doing. I know what you're up to.
look, Howard. I don't know what you're getting at.
I see when you're sleeping.
But
I
don't know
know what
down.
you're doing,
Calm
and
down.
I'm always watching.
I don't know.
Always watching. I'm always watching.
Santa Claus. There's Santa Claus.
But you're not sure. Even at the
Yeah.
end of that scene, you realize he was giving clues to like Santa Claus, but really he was threatening them. You don't know. It's up to your interpretation of
Yeah.
the scene. But it's like incredibly threatening, and you're not sure where they stand like, at that point.
Yeah. Well, isn't that pretty soon? Isn't that right? Kind of right before you reveal that he does know what's going on, or he knows that something's up, or he doesn't trust
Yeah.
what they're doing.
Well, and then at some point after that, again, it's all like hearsay. They're not really sure, and then all of a sudden he pulls them aside. It's like weeks later or something. He like pulls them aside and says they all have to talk, and he ends up confronting them. And he's like, "I know you're up to something because he finds their tools. They like had scissors and things they were using to like cut and craft their stuff that they're hiding."
Yeah.
And he confronts them, and Emmett like lays on the slab and is like, "No, it's all me. Like, don't hurt her. You know, I'm sorry. I was gonna try and steal your gun," which was their plan, to try and get the gun away from him,
Right.
and to tie him up so they could escape, basically. And he's like, "I'm sorry," you know. And there's this scene where you think he's like forgiving him, where he's like, oh, "Okay, you're sorry,
Yeah.
fine." And then he pulls out a gun and shoots
I think he
him
says,
in the
"I
head.
forgive you," and then he
He's
shoots him in the head.
Boom, and then he shoots him in the head like immediately.
Yeah.
Just like no.
And then immediately
Pause.
goes to trying to calm Michelle down, as if like
Yeah.
he saved her.
Yeah, he's like, he was gonna attack
He was
us. You
gonna
heard
hurt
him.
us, yeah.
You heard what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he starts immediately like, this was his plan all along, was to have them together. So he's just like super stoked about it.
Yeah.
And when he does this by pulling out, when he starts talking to both of them, he pulls out this barrel of chemical.
This perchloric acid. Do either of you know what that is? It's usually produced as a precursor to ammonium perchlorate fuel used for launching naval satellites into orbit. It's highly corrosive, dissolves most biological material on contact with humans, right down to the bone.
Yeah.
That reminded me of the dip from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You ever seen that?
No.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit? They had this dip where they would put the tunes in, and it would like disintegrate the tunes.
Since I've had Toontown under my jurisdiction, my goal has been to rein in the insanity. And the only way to do that is to make Toons respect the law.
But he basically brings out dip, and he's like, if I put you in this, it will disintegrate you.
Remember how we always thought there wasn't a way to kill a Toon? Well, Doom found a way. Turpentine, acetone, benzene. He calls it the dip.
Dissolves most biological biological material on contact with humans, right down to the bone.
And he threatens them with it. And so when he shoots him, he's like, all right, you need to go to your room now, sweetheart, because you don't want to see what comes next, because he's going to disintegrate Emmett basically now that he's dead. And there's a really, really creepy scene after that when he comes back having like disposed of Emmett's body. And now she's like hiding in a room alone now. She has no one to like help her anymore. And Howard comes in completely clean shaven. He shaved off his beard, which he's had for the whole movie, and like done his hair up and like looks like he's ready to go to church.
Yeah.
And he's like filling that like parent daughter role now. And he's like 100% in it now.
Like now we can get to what we...
He literally said, because he like comes in and he's celebrating because he's happy about this turn of events.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's eat some ice cream. I figure we can eat dessert now and before we eat meals. And she's not hungry because she just watched someone get murdered.
Yeah.
And then he literally says like, we can do whatever we want now. He like says that now that Emmett's gone, we can do it, because he says that about the ice cream. He's like, we can eat ice cream before dinner. We can do whatever we want now, which has these like horrible like creepy overtones of like, well, the implication,
whatever he wants.
Really creepy. Like there's a lot of really good like dialogue choices for Howard's character throughout the movie that have these weird overtones of like abusive parents and like his weird psychology that's going on up there.
Hey, I thought we'd change things up tonight and have dessert before dinner. After all, we can do whatever we want now. Would you like a cone or a bowl?
She now is on her own trying to escape the situation. She's managed to still hide the suit that she's making. That's
what happens now.
So she's he eventually find it though?
She has it hidden under her bed, and the mask, she makes like a air filtration mask out of like a 2 liter of Coke or something. I don't know what she made that out of.
Yeah.
But she hides that in the vent. And when he comes in, like it was really coincidental to like
the screw
falls and he hears it fall and looks up and he's like, why is the vent loose? And like pulls it open. He doesn't find the thing there.
Yeah.
But when he looks back at her, he's like suspicious now and he sees like part of the suit they were making under her bed and he's like, get up, let me see. And so he finds the suit. And then I forget what happens now. She attacks him and like locks him in the room. Actually, she like shuts the door behind him, and she's trying to get out now and like in a panic. And she sees this almost deserved the R rating, where you see Emmett like decomposing.
Right.
She's like running around, and then there's like Emmett in that acid like dissolving. And it's basically a mad rush to the end of the movie there, where she like. I forget exactly how she escapes now. She climbs back through
the vent and goes out that way, and she uses like that trick that he taught her about freezing the lock with the compressed air.
Yeah, because he was in the Navy and he like learned in their free time
that kind of bothered me too. He uses his time in the Navy as an explanation for something that is ridiculous.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with...
Yeah, he like hears the helicopter above them.
Well, that kind of made sense. He knows what helicopters sound like.
He doesn't
Where he knew
know...
that wasn't an American helicopter.
How would he know that? He's like 14 years in the Navy. Well, like, and because what every helicopter sounds like from hearing it from underground.
To be fair, what we know those helicopters actually were from later in the movie... He could tell it wasn't a whatever helicopter.
Whatever he was used to.
Yeah, I would say that's
okay, fair enough.
Even though he doesn't say it's aliens or whatever it might be.
But I thought that line played to his character. Yeah. Because the character had an inflated view of himself. Sure.
Yeah.
So
he was talking out his ass.
Yeah.
He just wanted to sound smart more than likely. Yeah. No,
so either way, yeah. He may have recognized that they sounded weird, but he also thought very highly of his perception of things.
Yeah, she does a good job of beating him up and like getting him to fall in the acid at one point.
Oh yeah.
And then that ends up like dissolving an electrical outlet, which starts a fire. So it escalates really quickly.
Yeah.
And then when she's climbing through the vent, he's like stabbing into the vent with a knife and trying to like pull her down. But yeah, she does escape. She uses his trick to freeze the lock and knocks the lock out eventually. And she's got her suit on. She escapes with her suit and she makes it up. So what was your impression at this point in the movie? What did you think was gonna happen here? She escaped. She's free.
Well, I had seen Cloverfield.
Yeah.
And I knew this existed in the Cloverfield universe that she wasn't free.
Some weird shit was gonna go down.
Yeah. So, and then some weird shit went down. It got weirder from there.
It did get weird, yeah.
So she realizes that
This would have been the end of like a normal
yeah, she's free.
escape movie.
She got out. Like, you could have ended the movie there and most people would have been satisfied.
Yeah. It would have been a good ending.
Yeah, but what happens though is she gets out. She tears her suit.
Oh yeah, on the she's like checking his truck and tears her suit.
Yeah,
which means the air can get in.
And so the air can get in. So she's frantically trying to get it patched back up, and she gets it patched back up and realizes that she's fine, and so decides
she sees birds flying.
Yeah, that's right. She sees the birds, so she decides to test the air. So she takes her mask off.
Maybe
she's
not
fine.
the best move, but
yeah, I know.
I don't think I would have done that in that situation, but you know, I get it.
Yeah, I maybe would have tried to find another person before I took it off.
But she tests
but
the air.
she's a bold survivor.
She is,
and tests the boundaries of things. So she took the mask off. So I mean, it tracks with her character.
Yeah. And she's fine. Apparently,
she's fine. Yeah. Then the real shit happens.
Yeah.
Then she like stands up on the truck and sees like this alien shit.
Well, she sees some like explosions in the distance and like some kind of ship. It doesn't even look that alien at first. You're just like, what is that? Is it a blimp? Is it something? And then the fire in the oh my gosh, words are failing me. The fire in the bunker ignites like their oxygen tank or something and it explodes.
Yeah.
So it's like a signal. So like the thing that she's watching like way in the distance, it's like fields. They're like in like, you know, like cornfields or something. And then the explosion goes off and that ship like comes to her and she starts to realize that's not like a normal ship. That's nothing I've ever seen before. So it gets weird really quick.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
There's aliens.
There's aliens.
Now there's aliens.
Yeah.
Come on.
And so if you've
aliens.
seen Cloverfield, it's kind of a satisfying thing because you get a little bit more information about what was going on in Cloverfield because it ends not knowing much about what was
Maybe.
going
I don't
on.
even know if they're in the same universe necessarily. You kind of have to make that leap, but
Well, wasn't it a similar kind of outbreak situation, like with the skin rash and the thing? Because you assume that's what happened to the girl at the door.
I just always thought it was completely different. Well, because in this one we learned that they're actually using gas to kill people.
Right.
And they like their ship like sends down gas. In Cloverfield, it was like something to do with the way the monster like reproduced. Or it was almost like whatever the Godzilla monster was in that movie. It had these other creatures that like lived on it, like fleas or something, and they were like multiplied by like infecting people. And there was some weird, yeah.
Okay.
They could be They could be the same universe. I kind of see it as maybe it's a separate scenario entirely, but it could be.
I don't know.
It's up to interpretation.
I actually don't think I've seen Cloverfield since it was in theaters. So
It's been a while.
I need to go back and.
I've seen it once since.
I just remember the weird ending part where like you see something fall into the ocean.
Oh yeah.
And so
well, you saw the old footage that showed that they had like filmed when the creature had fallen into the ocean.
Yeah.
Like, before it rampaged. But it could be, for all we know, it's part of the same invasion. Maybe the aliens also have a creature that they just unleash on cities and as part of the destruction campaign.
Okay.
For all, I don't know. It could be.
Yeah.
It's up to your imagination, really. All we know for sure is that they're trying to kill her and that they sick like alien dogs after her, which are like sniffing around. It reminded me a lot of A Quiet Place, actually, like the way the aliens were and the way they had to hide from them and whatnot. and she ends up kind of being like action hero. Like to me, the ending was almost like in Lord of the Rings. There's this like subplot after they save the whole world where the hobbits like go home again.
Yeah.
But they find their home has been like taken over by these like bandits and this guy who they learn is like Saruman. But they basically have to like fight all over again. But now they're strong and they've been through the shit and they know how to like handle themselves and save their own people. So they like save the day at the end again, which seems like, okay, yeah, why would you have this other ending? But it like shows like the character growth. So like she's been through this horrible abuse, but she's fought it and survived. And now she ends up in like the even worse situation.
Yeah.
But she's strong and can fight it. I almost feel like it was saying like, you know, survivors of abuse can almost have superpowers where they're able to like see things in ways that other people can't and like, survive situations.
I think that was definitely a theme of the movie for sure. I'll talk about that in a second. I was wanted to go through the whole plot of the story, and then I wanted to go talk about like the characterization.
So she like fights the creatures. The dog. She hides from the dog. They try and gas her, which she realizes she grabs her mask again and like survives the gas attack. And then she ends up blowing up one of the ships, which I guess is biological. Again, nothing's really explained, but the ship almost seems like a biological creature itself. Yeah. Where it's trying to like eat her or something, and she like lights the bottle of alcohol on fire. Yeah. And like blows it up.
Molotov cocktails.
Which is like freaking badass. Yeah, like it was awesome. Like it was a great, like for such a movie that just was slow and built up tension.
That was a
to have that ending scene, just really feels like cathartic where you're like, yes, this is blow it up. It feels so good. Yeah. But yeah, she takes that out and then gets in her car. Like she gets her keys back.
She gets the lady's car who pulled up the.
You're right.
Leslie, I think was her name.
Yeah. She gets the car, and while she's driving, she gets a radio transmission, which tells her that there's other people alive. She like learns that there's people living in Texas, I want to say.
In Houston.
Houston. And so the movie kind of ends on a like driving off into the sunset, you know, going on her own adventure to try and...
Actually, the ending was a perfect cap to me on the character because she had two choices in that situation. It said there are people alive in Texas, so go to Texas for safety. But if you have any skills or abilities to help, come to, I can't remember.
It was like a hospital in Houston or something.
Yeah,
where Houston, there's survivors and we're winning. She's like, but we need people to help fight. Yeah. That's what they said. If you have any experience in fighting or medical, you know, come help us. We're winning it was on the southern seaboard, they said. We're pushing back and we're winning. You know? And so she, instead of running away, she goes to the fight at the end, which is a great ending.
A perfect circle to her character. She
circle.
Yeah, that's where like we get out of the sci-fi aspect of it, and I kind of like break it down as a story and a character development.
Because the sci-fi part was really incidental. It wasn't really a sci-fi movie at all.
Yeah, in fact, it doesn't turn sci-fi until the last like 10 minutes of it.
Yeah.
So if you're like hesitant to watch a sci-fi movie, this really isn't.
It's a character drama, really. Yeah. It's a character suspense acting showpiece.
Right.
Like, yeah.
So when you look at the breakdown of the story, it's all Michelle's character. Everything relates back to Michelle. She's the protagonist. Yeah. So if you look at the way the story goes, like I usually break down stories through like Dan Harmon's story circle.
You're telling me about that.
So, which goes in the terms of like someone's in a zone of comfort. They want something, so they go and seek it. They find themselves in in an unfamiliar situation. They learn to adapt to it. They get what they want, but at a cost. And so then...
Sounds exactly like the plot of this movie.
Yeah, and so then they return to where they started, but they've changed. And that's exactly how this story goes.
You're right. Like, she ends up back in her car on the highway.
It starts with her running away.
But in a different context.
Yeah.
Like instead of running away, now she's running to something.
To a fight. And you get that backstory in the story when she's talking to Emmett. you get that conflict because she's talking to Emmett like at some point in the story. I think it's when everything's kind of good.
Yeah, it is. When
It's
they
when
first connected, really.
Yeah, it's when she decides to just kind
It's
of.
after she saw the woman dying.
Right.
And she decided that, okay, I need to stay here.
Right.
And like there is something out there. And so she's not trying to escape anymore. Mm-hmm. And then she starts talking to Emmett.
So both of their stories in that scene are important. Emmett's story, he talks about how he had never wanted to pursue, like he was a all-star like track. Was it track or was it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, he was like a track and field athlete who had a scholarship to go to this college, and he tells a story about how he was so excited showing off his bus ticket that they had paid for him to go, and then he started to get this fear,
like doubts
in himself that he wouldn't make it and that he would fail, and ended up drinking himself into oblivion the night before,
like
and
I'm doing. Yeah.
and didn't. Just so that he wouldn't wake up the next morning and he missed the bus, and then he never actually went.
Sabotaged himself.
He sabotaged himself so that he wouldn't make it, so that he wouldn't fail. And then,
and in the story here, he actually stepped up and tried to save her, because he was, you know, at the point in the movie, John Goodman's character may have killed both of them, but he was saying, no, I'm the one that was trying to escape, you know, blame me. He didn't run from it, and he faced his fears too.
Yeah, he became a hero in that moment of the story.
Yeah.
So yeah, he kind of went through his own change where he had been running. But I see all of the characters in the story through the character of Michelle.
Yeah.
So, and then let's go back to that scene where she's talking.
Yeah.
Emmett and her are talking. So Michelle tells her story of her abusive father, and she had a brother who was always there to kind of take the brunt of it. But then what she was saying, like later in life, she had seen like this abusive father like at the store, and she did nothing.
She did nothing.
Yeah.
Just watch.
She watched. She was afraid to intervene and didn't do anything. So that plays into her, that's her struggle.
Well, that directly relates to Howard as the abusive parent.
Right.
I mean, he is the archetype of the abusive parent.
He is the abusive parent, but he's also, at the same time, something she's afraid of becoming, because he's also a fear-based person. So he's this...
True.
So
he's controlled by his fears.
Right.
Yeah.
So he, he's built this entire bunker for this catastrophic event that's going to happen, and he's built his entire life on retreat and survival.
Yeah.
And so that's what Michelle can become. She can become this person who is solely focused on survival and just, completely about just making it through, fighting every battle that needs to be fought, and getting away. Mm-hmm. That's what
escaping. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what Howard represents, and then Emmett represents another side of her. Complacency. That's another thing that she's afraid of.
Right.
Like he, when he tells his story, I think that's another thing that drives her fear. I think when we look back on the fight that started her retreat in the beginning, it probably wasn't a big deal. It looked like there was a ring.
She may have blown it up.
I think she was engaged and got a little scared of the
cold feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my kind of
that makes sense.
Perception of that.
She was scared of commitment. And
she was scared of committing and buying into things. And Emmett was a character who bought in completely to Howard's story.
Yeah.
And so,
situation.
And he was also a person who was afraid of change. So there's like this person who's running from things, and then there's a person who's afraid to run like to anything better.
Yeah.
And so what you get at the end of the story is she comes back to exactly where she was in the beginning, driving away from this situation this was actually a dangerous situation.
Well, instead of driving away, though, she's driving towards a goal now.
She's driving to fight and help, which is exactly what she had said that she was afraid to do.
Exactly.
So, awesome story.
That's great. I didn't even put all that together, too. That was a great analysis, bro. That was awesome. Yeah. It's a good movie.
It was a great movie.
It was good.
Yeah. This was Zach
holds up.
recommended this movie. I don't tend to. I say that I don't gravitate towards sci-fi
Yeah.
so much, but then I find
If it's
myself
good,
more
it's
and
good,
more.
man. If
Yeah,
it's good,
if it's a good
it's good.
story, it's a good story. I don't care what the genre is.
Yeah.
As long as I can follow it.
Yeah, I mean, A Quiet Place is like sci-fi, but
Yeah.
it doesn't feel I mean, good sci-fi doesn't. It just feels like characters.
You should be
that
able
are
to
in a
find
situation.
something you can relate to in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad I watched this movie. I think it was an awesome choice.
Heck yeah.
So
I'm
unlike
glad
our
you
last
liked
one
it.
where we were complete polar opposites on where we were with the Vast of Night, this one I would highly recommend.
Oh, definitely. And it's one that is, to me, it's best the first time.
Yeah.
Like, there are some movies that get better with every watching, and I enjoyed watching it again. But there's nothing like watching this movie for the first time, because it's one where you have no idea where it's going, you don't know what to expect, and it's more about like visceral like storytelling, where you feel the moments the characters are in, and it's not so high level like thinking about and analyzing things. It's just like, holy crap, what am I going to do right now to survive? you know? So it's very intense, and it's the first viewing is like really awesome on this one. So if you haven't watched it, definitely watch this movie.
But if you haven't watched it and you're at the end of this,
then we've ruined everything.
Completely ruined the story.
Well, we told people at the very beginning to go watch, so hopefully
I don't
you
know
listen
why we're
to us.
recommending the story at this point, because there's no point in watching
There are
it.
people that will watch this whole review and then go watch the movie. More power to you.
Yeah,
you know? Maybe they'll get more out of it.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's good. There's definitely that overarching theme, and I love where her character ends up. It just feels really hopeful, and like Quiet Place, I could see a sequel to this that would be interesting, but it wouldn't be the same movie. It wouldn't be tonally right. Like this is its own little centerpiece, and that's the end of that story.
I mean, didn't they do another installment of the Cloverfield?
It has nothing to do with anything.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it, I think it's like an anthology where it's like a Twilight Zone or something where it's all in a separate universe with its own little weird thing, sci-fi situation that happened. And I thought they were kind of vamping to do like a lot of these, which would have been cool, but the one after this that got made on Netflix is just terrible. It's like sci-fi movie budget writing, and it's just bad.
Yeah.
I couldn't even get through it. It's like so bad. The writing and everything is just terrible.
Yeah.
So it's disappointing. Maybe they'll pick this up again at some point, but it seems like it's a dead thing.
Yeah.
It was like a part of like Bad Robot, I want to say, so it was like connected to the Damon Lindelof and the Lost guys.
J.J. Abrams. Yeah. There was a lens flare in there. J.J. Abrams produced it, which he requires.
He had nothing to do with it, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure J.J. Abrams requires at least one colorful lens flare in every movie.
They were on the like final print of the movie, and they were like, "Hey, we got a call from J.J. He's got one note. Where the hell's the lens flare?" So where was the lens flare? I didn't even notice a lens flare.
It was when she was hiding. Is when she was hiding from the aliens when she was trying to get the keys to the car.
See, that kind of makes sense tonally too, because they're like winking at like, it's sci-fi now, so there's lens flare. It's like Star Trek. Yeah. That was like 2016 was when the Damon Lindelof Star Trek was coming out too, where there was like lens flare in every shot.
So Damon Lindelof is he was one of the main writers of Lost, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's where he really got.
I definitely got a little bit of a Lost feel.
Yeah.
Maybe from the bunker itself, kind of having like a Dharma Initiative type vibe to it.
Yeah, I doubt he had much to do with this movie at all.
No. I don't think so. And it definitely wasn't like heavily Lost.
No.
I think I knew it was Bad Robot, and so I might have been looking for it a little bit.
I know what you're saying. Well, the mystery of it was kind of like Lost.
Yeah.
It was a mystery box, which is what Lindelof likes to say.
That's what I
it's
think
a mystery box.
That's the note I wrote down, is the mystery.
The movie literally is a mystery. The whole movie takes place within a mystery box.
That's what I think. Yeah, I wrote down. It was like the mystery is similar to Lost, where you're constantly like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. It wasn't as like weird as Lost necessarily, but it really plays with your expectations, and they do a really good job of having an unreliable narrator who's telling you what's going on in the world, but you have no reason to trust this person. It reminded me a lot. Did you ever see Dogtooth?
No.
Ο αδερφός σας πέθανε. Ένα πλάσμα σαν αυτό που εισέβαλε σήμερα στον κήπο τον διαμέλισε. Το ζώο που μας απειλεί λέγεται γάτα. Είναι το πιο επικίνδυνο ζώο που υπάρχει. Όσο βρίσκεστε μέσα, δεν κινδυνεύετε.
We gotta do Dogtooth. But Dogtooth is like this foreign film. I don't even remember what language it's in. It might be Swedish or something. But it's about these siblings that are raised by parents who make up what words mean completely. And they've never been in the outside world, and they don't understand what things are, even to the point of where like they go outside and they see an airplane flying over, and their parents will like throw a toy airplane, and the airplane will fall, and they'll think that's the airplane. They just have no concept of what the world is, and it ends with like an escape situation where one of them wants to escape into the real world and find out what's going on. It's a much darker movie than this, but it's very similar to where like, you know, when someone has that position of power over you and they're the one feeding you information, you don't know what to trust and you don't know what's real. And that's a really interesting dynamic in movies that you could explore a lot more. It's not done enough in movies, but Dogtooth is, if you like this movie, go watch Dogtooth. Just brace yourself, because it's a lot weirder than this movie.
You could also swing to the other side and watch the comedy from the 90s with Brendan Fraser, Blast from the Past.
Whoa.
And the threat of nuclear war drove the Weber family underground.
How long will we have to stay down here?
35 years.
35 years.
For 3 decades, they lived a fairly normal life. But their son has become a man.
Which is, he
what is it called? The movie's called Blast from the Past?
Blast from the Past. So this is Brendan Fraser's
Is this like Encino Man?
Kind of.
I've never heard of this movie.
You never heard of it? It's pretty funny. I mean, it was funny. Like, I saw it in the 90s. I thought it was funny. I don't know how it would hold up.
Who was in this movie?
Brendan Fraser.
Well, just like Encino Man, too.
Yeah.
Wasn't he in Encino Man?
Yeah,
so
he was.
What is break this down for me? What is
Blast from the Past, it starts in the, like, 60s, where his father, you know, there's all this, you know, like Cuban Missile Crisis. They're worried about nuclear war.
Oh, okay.
So his dad is building a bunker to prepare for the nuclear fallout, and then a plane happens to crash into their house, which they assume is the end of the world, and they go and live in this bunker for the next 30 years.
Oh my God. But they don't need to be.
They don't need to
and
be.
Then he comes out.
And then he comes out and he has grown up in a bunker his entire life, and he comes out and it's the 90s.
That sounds like what I'm going to watch tonight.
Yeah.
And have a nice like chill out after this intense movie. That's called Blast from the Past?
Blast from the Past.
Okay.
So
I like it. Well, there's your 2 recommendations. You want to go darker and more film like Veritas, you go with the Dogtooth. You go comedy, you go Blast from the Past. I like it.
Yeah.
Or do a little bit of both.
Yeah. All right.
So this has been first official episode of Movie Veritas.
Movie Veritas.
Although the review that we did earlier of Vast of Night was kind of the same vibe.
It was the same thing. It was called Looking at Cinema, but we're figuring it out, all right? Give us a
baby
break.
steps. I don't see you making a podcast.
Exactly.
What's the title of your podcast? I bet it's going to change a couple times when you try and make it too.
This is really hard.
Yeah,
we
like,
put a lot
subscribe,
of work into this.
Ring the bell. Check out my other stuff under The Logical Shaman, and check out our stuff under Jackknife and Scarecrow Productions. And this has been another fun movie review podcast.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. God bless.
Last one day, sure. Hey, boss.
They're not kid gloves, Mr. Valiant. But this is how we handle things down in Toontown. I'd think you of all people would appreciate that.